losing the love of your life is already unbearable. But being thrown into the streets by the one person who should have stood by you, that's the kind of pain that leaves scars you never forget. When I married Daniel, I knew his mother, Lorraine, wasn't exactly thrilled about me. She didn't hide it. In fact, it felt like she went out of her way to remind me I didn't belong. Lorraine would give me that look. You know the one. Like I'd just tracked mud through her spotless living room. Every time I entered a room, her expression soured like spoiled milk. "She'll come around, Julia," Daniel would tell me, squeezing my hand beneath the dinner table, trying to reassure me, as his mother avoided eye contact and asked only him about his job, his health, his plans. Like I was invisible. But Lorraine never did come around. Not to me. And definitely not to my kids. Ella, who was 5, and Noah, who was 7 at the time. They were from my first marriage, and while Daniel had embraced them completely, Lorraine acted like they were some kind of burden, extra baggage I'd brought along to leech off her son. One night, during a Sunday dinner at her house, I overheard her whispering to a friend in the kitchen while I was bringing in plates. "The kids aren't even his," she said. "She trapped him with that ready-made family. Classic gold digger move." I stopped in the hallway, frozen, gripping those plates like my fingers had turned to stone. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream, cry, throw something. But instead, I walked out like nothing happened. That night I broke down. I told Daniel everything, tears soaking into his shirt. "She doesn't even see them as your family. She thinks I used you for your money," I sobbed. His jaw tightened, that muscle in his cheek twitching the way it did when he was holding back anger. "I'll talk to her," he said. "That stops now." Then he held me, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "You and those kids are my world, Julia. Nothing will come between us, not even her." And he meant it. Daniel was all in. He bought us a beautiful home in a quiet neighborhood with good schools and leafy streets, far away enough from Lorraine that we only had to see her if we wanted to. Life finally felt peaceful. Ella and Noah thrived under his care. He didn't try to replace their father, who had walked out when Noah was still in diapers, but instead, he carved out his own space in their hearts, Saturday pancakes, pillow forts, tucking them in at night with stories and silly voices. One evening, I watched from the hallway as he arranged Ella's stuffed animals in a perfect circle on her bed. "Mr. Sparkles always goes on the left," she declared seriously. Daniel nodded solemnly. "Of course. He's the guardian of the left side. Very important job." Moments like that made my heart swell. Later that night, he told me, "I talked to Mom today." I tensed. She either respects my family, our family, or she doesn't see me at all. I looked up at him, stunned. "You really said that?" He smiled gently. "I didn't have to. I chose to." Lorraine, to her credit, backed off. For a while. She sent birthday cards with awkward gifts, made stiff conversation during the holidays. She never warmed up to us, but she kept her distance. Until that call. I was chopping vegetables for dinner while the kids argued over math homework at the table. The usual noise, the usual chaos, until the phone rang. "Is this Ms. Julia Matthews?" a voice asked. "Yes?" "I'm calling from Ridgeway Medical. Your husband's been in a car accident. It's serious. You need to come now." The knife fell from my hands. I don't remember the drive. I don't remember asking the neighbor to come watch the kids. I just remember the look on the doctor's face when he stepped into the waiting room. And I knew. "We did everything we could," he said. Daniel was gone. The only man who ever truly loved me, loved us, was gone. Just like that. I asked to see him. I don't even know how I walked to the room. He looked like he was just sleeping. But his chest didn't rise. His eyes didn't flutter. I held his hand. It was cold. You promised, I whispered. You promised you wouldn't leave us. The funeral was a fog. Black clothes, murmured condolences, people hugging me like I might shatter. Lorraine sat stiffly in the front row. She didn't cry. She accepted sympathy with a stone face. Ella si afferrò a mi mano. Noah stood tall, pretending to be brave, like he suddenly had to fill Daniel's shoes. After the service, Lorraine walked straight up to me. Her voice was low, sharp as a knife. This is your fault. I blinked, stunned. What? If he hadn't been rushing home to you and those kids, he'd still be alive. I couldn't believe it. She blamed us. But Daniel's crash hadn't happened near our house. The police said so. We were his family, I snapped, holding my kids close. And he loved us. She leaned in. You trapped him. You know it. And I know it. Then she walked away. Noah pulled at my sleeve. Mom, was it our fault? I dropped to my knees and took his face in my hands. No, baby. Absolutely not. What happened was a terrible accident. It's nobody's fault. Grandma's just sad and confused right now. But I knew this wasn't grief talking. This was something darker. And 2 days later, she made it worse. Grief has a way of blinding you, but nothing clears your vision like betrayal. And when I saw our lives dumped on the curb like garbage, my heartbreak turned to something else. Something stronger. 2 days after Daniel's funeral, I thought the kids and I could use a little sunshine. Just a tiny slice of normal. Ice cream, laughter, a break from the constant ache in our chests. We piled into the car and went to the local creamery where the kids giggled over gummy worms and sprinkles. But when we returned home, I slammed on the brakes so hard, I nearly hit the mailbox. Everything we owned was on the front lawn. Our clothes, our shoes, toys, school backpacks, all stuffed in black trash bags like leftovers from someone else's life. Ella's favorite blanket was half hanging out of one bag, its pink edge fluttering in the breeze like a white flag in a war I didn't know we were fighting. Mom, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Why is my blankie outside? I couldn't answer. I jumped out of the car, heart pounding, and ran to the front door. My key didn't work. The locks had been changed. I banged on the door, pounded it with my fist. Hello? Open this door. It opened, and there stood Lorraine, calm as a sunny afternoon, dressed in pressed linen like she hadn't just thrown her grieving daughter-in-law and grandchildren into the street. Oh, you're back, she said, like I was some unwelcome guest who had overstayed their welcome. What is going on? I asked, my voice shaking. Why is our stuff outside? She folded her arms. This house belongs to me now. Daniel was my son. You and your little brats need to find somewhere else. I stared at her in disbelief. Lorraine, this is our home. She actually scoffed. It was my son's house. And now that he's gone, you have no legal right to it. You were only here because of him. Now you're not welcome. I felt heat rise in my chest, my blood boiling. You can't do this, I said, though my voice wavered. This is illegal. You can't just lock us out like this. She leaned in, eyes cold. Sue me. Oh, wait. You can't afford to, can you? Not without his money. Behind me, Ella started to cry. Noah stepped forward, small but fierce, putting himself between his sister and the woman trying to erase us. You're a monster, I said, holding back tears. And you will regret this. She smiled and shut the door in my face. We slept in the car that night. I pulled the seat back and tried to make it comfortable, tried to keep it light for the kids. It's like camping, I said, forcing a smile. A little adventure. But Ella cried herself to sleep, and Noah, always trying to be brave, whispered, Dad wouldn't let this happen. I reached back to squeeze his hand. He wouldn't, and neither will I. The next morning, I dropped the kids at school like everything was normal. I lied, said we were staying with a friend, I promised them I'd have a plan by pickup time. Then I sat in the car, parked outside their school, and broke. Not a quiet cry, not a delicate sob. I broke. Ugly tears, gasping sobs, pounding my fists on the steering wheel. When I could breathe again, I called Tom, Daniel's lawyer. My fingers trembled as I held the phone. "Julia," he said warmly, "I was just going to call. How are you holding up?" "Not well," I said. "Lorraine changed the locks. She threw us out. We slept in my car." There was silence on the other end. Then, "She did what?" I repeated myself, trying not to cry again. "She can't do that. It's completely illegal," Tom said, his voice now hard and furious. "Did Daniel leave a will? Is that why you're calling? Yes, please tell me he did." "He absolutely did," he said, and I could practically hear the relief in his voice. "In fact, I was supposed to bring it to you next week. Can you come to my office now?" Within an hour, I was sitting across from him. He slid the document toward me and took a deep breath. "Daniel came to me 6 months ago," he said. "He was concerned about this exact situation." My throat tightened as I looked at the signature at the bottom of the page. Daniel's handwriting, his final act of love. "He left everything to you, Julia. The house, his savings, his investments. All of it." I blinked, stunned. "Everything?" He nodded. "Well, almost everything. He left Lorraine $200,000. But, and this is important, he added a condition." Tom tapped the second page. "If she tried to evict you, seize the house, or interfere with your inheritance in any way, she forfeits the money." I stared at him. "And where does it go?" "To you and the kids." I exhaled. Not in relief, but in something deeper. It was the first moment since Daniel died that I felt a flicker of light. Justice. Hope. "What do we do now?" I asked. Tom picked up the phone. "Now?" "We take your house back." That night, the kids and I stayed in the car again. But this time, it was different. I told them the truth. "We're getting our house back tomorrow." Ella's eyes lit up. "With my room? My toys?" "All of it," I said. "Just wait." Noah tilted his head. "Is Grandma Lorraine going to be in trouble?" I paused. "Yes, she is. What she did was wrong, and there are consequences." He nodded, serious beyond his years. "Dad always said people have to take responsibility." My heart ached. He was right, and he still is. The emergency court hearing was set for the next morning, and I was ready. Sometimes justice doesn't come with fanfare. It comes in the form of a quiet courtroom, a strong voice, and a piece of paper that says, "You were right all along." That morning, we ate breakfast in a fast food parking lot, pancakes from a paper bag, and coffee that tasted like cardboard. But I didn't care, because today, everything was going to change. I straightened Ella's hair with my fingers and wiped syrup off Noah's chin. Then I knelt down and looked them both in the eyes. "I need you to be brave today," I said. "We're going to court, and we're going to get our home back." Noah squared his shoulders like a little soldier. Ella sonrió y me abrazó fuerte. "I miss my pink blanket." "We'll find it," I promised. The courthouse felt too big, too formal. But when we stepped into that room, I stood tall. I had to. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s, with reading glasses perched at the tip of her nose. She looked over the file, glanced at me, and then at Lorraine, who was sitting across the aisle in a pearl necklace, and that same stony expression she always wore. Lorraine didn't even look at me. But when she spoke, her voice was laced with that familiar self-righteous venom. "I was simply reclaiming what rightfully belongs to me," she said, hands folded delicately. "That house was purchased by my son. It should go back to his family." I stood. My voice didn't shake. "Your son was my family. And those children you call brats? He loved them as his own. That house was ours. He left it to us. I handed over the will. The judge skimmed through it silently, her face unreadable. Then she set it down with a heavy sigh. "Ms. Lorraine," she said, "you had no legal right to change the locks or remove the rightful tenants. I am issuing an immediate court order for you to vacate the property and return all keys to Ms. Julia Matthews by the end of the day." Lorraine's face twisted in disbelief. "But it's my son's house." The judge didn't flinch. "And your son left it to his wife. The court does not recognize Batuema's mother as a legal argument." There was silence. Then Lorraine's jaw clenched. She stood muttering under her breath and stormed out of the courtroom. I just stood there, stunned. Then Tom clapped a hand on my shoulder. "We're not done yet. There's one more thing she doesn't know." By the time we got back to the house, I had a new set of keys in my hand. Tom had sent a locksmith ahead of time to make sure Lorraine couldn't pull any last-minute stunts. And then we saw it. Black trash bags, stacked on the lawn. Her belongings, her clothes, her shoes. Even her china packed into boxes and left on the curb. Exactly the way she'd treated ours. Ella gasped. "Mom, did you do that?" I looked at her, then at Noah, and I smiled. "No, sweetie. The locksmith did." Noah stepped out of the car, wide-eyed, taking it all in. "It's like we rewound time." Before I could reply, another car came to a screeching halt behind us. Lorraine burst out, her face flushed with fury. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked, flailing toward her belongings. I calmly stepped between her and the kids. "You illegally evicted us, Lorraine. Now it's your turn to leave." "You can't do this!" she screamed, pointing a trembling finger in my face. I pulled out the keys and held them up. "Oh, but I can. Daniel made sure of it." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." I folded my arms. "Please do." And she did. When the officers arrived, she launched into a dramatic explanation about being the grieving mother and rightful heir. The officers listened politely, then turned to her. "Ma'am," one said, "changing locks without a court-approved eviction is illegal. This is trespassing and unlawful eviction. We're going to have to ask you to come with us." Her mouth fell open. "What? But this is my son's house." "No," I said gently. "It was. Now it's ours. You broke the law." As they began escorting her to the squad car, she twisted back toward me, eyes blazing. "You turned him against me," she hissed. "You and those children. They're not even his." I took a step forward, my voice quiet but razor sharp. "No, Lorraine, you did that. You pushed him away. And now you've lost everything, including the money he left for you." She froze. "What are you talking about?" "It's in the will," I said. "Daniel left you $200,000. On one condition. Don't interfere. Don't try to take the house. You broke that condition. And now that money goes to me and the kids." Her knees wobbled. Her face went pale. And then the officer closed the car door. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not anger or destruction. It's peace. It's rebuilding your life when someone tried to tear it apart, and doing it with grace, strength, and the love that never left your side. That night, for the first time since Daniel's funeral, we slept in our own beds. I tucked Ella in, gently, making sure Mr. Sparkles was placed exactly where he belonged, on the left side of the bed. "Mom," she asked sleepily, her voice barely a whisper, "is Grandma Lorraine going to jail forever?" I brushed a curl behind her ear and smiled softly. "I don't know, sweetheart, but she won't be bothering us again. That much I can promise." In the next room, Noah was already under the covers, but his eyes were wide, thoughtful. "You were really brave today, Mom," he said as I sat at the edge of his bed. I felt my chest tighten. "I learned it from you guys." After the kids had fallen asleep, I walked quietly into Daniel's office. His presence still lingered in the little things. The curve of his reading glasses on the desk, the dent in the leather chair where he always sat, and the mug he never remembered to take to the sink. And then there was the photo. Our family. Him, me, Ella, and Noah. Taken just 3 months before the accident, when life felt full and safe and untouchable. I picked it up and traced his face with my fingertip. "You knew, didn't you?" I whispered. "You knew she might try something like this." I didn't hear him say anything. Of course I didn't. But in that moment, it felt like he was right there with me. "That's why I made sure you'd be okay." His voice echoed in my mind. Daniel had done more than leave us a house. He'd left us security, dignity, the ability to fight back and win when someone tried to take everything from us. A few weeks later, Tom called me again. He was calm, but there was a note of satisfaction in his voice. "Lorraine tried to fight the court ruling," he said, "but she lost. She's forfeited everything. The $200,000 Daniel left her? It's officially yours and the kids now. I've set up a trust for their education, just like Daniel would have wanted." It didn't end there. She had to pay legal fees, restitution, and even spent a short time in jail for unlawful eviction and trespassing. The woman who once looked down on us, who thought her last name gave her the right to control our lives, was now shunned by her social circle, the same one she used to flaunt as a badge of honor. And yet, I didn't feel joy in her downfall. I didn't need revenge. I had something far more powerful. My children were safe. Our home was ours again. And Daniel's love, even in death, had shielded us. One night, while watching the kids play in the backyard, I sat on the porch and breathed deeply. The trees rustled softly. The sun dipped low over the fence line. And peace, real peace, settled into my bones. Noah ran up with a stick in one hand, pretending it was a sword. "Mom," he called. "I'm protecting the castle." I laughed. "You're doing a great job." Then Ella came running behind him, waving a daisy she had plucked. "And I'm the princess." I looked at them, Daniel's legacy, my heart, our home, and realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was healing. I was rebuilding. I was becoming someone Daniel would be proud of, and I knew that somewhere out there he was smiling. He'd kept his promise. He didn't leave us, not really. He made sure that even in the face of cruelty, injustice, and loss, love, real love, would win in the end.